Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. How are you doing, lovely students? I hope you all are doing well at home with your family. Dear students, I welcome all of you in Pakistan International School Types virtual learning class for the subject biology and for grade 10th. Yes, if we see that chapter number 10 is about gaseous exchange, and in first 3 lectures we have studied about the respiratory system of human beings and plants, as well as we have seen respiratory disorder number 1, that is bronchitis. Today we will see some other respiratory disorders, and in that we will see first of all emphysema. Emphysema. Emphysema is actually the destruction of walls of alveoli. And in this, walls of alveoli are destroyed, and due to that, there become the larger sacs with less surface area for gaseous exchange. If you see this diagram, you can see this one is respiratory system of human being, and this is the lung. And if you see here, the normal one, this is the normal alveoli, and if you see normal alveoli, alveoli are the respiratory sacs in which air is filled by breathing in oxygen, and what happened here are capillaries, and capillaries exchange carbon dioxide and oxygen in and out of these alveoli from the blood. So this is the normal condition. They look like grapes, and they like a bunch of grapes, like, but and they are, look, you can see circular like this, and this this structure of this alveoli that increases the surface area of alveoli to exchange more gases and to pass on more blood into that, and from there more gases are exchanged. So that is very important for normal breathing. But what happened in emphysema? If we see here in comparison of this normal alveoli, we can see here the alveoli with emphysema. What happens here? Due to some problems, some causes, we will discuss them later. What will happen here? You can see the alveoli walls, they get destructed. They are broken down from here like this one, this one, this one. So these walls are broken down. Due to this breakage or destruction of the walls of the alveoli, what happens? You can see the increased increased or big structure of this alveoli. Actually, this will not increase the surface area, but that will decrease the surface area of the gases, because everywhere, like this is an alveolus, and here arteries and veins are just gathering this alveoli. So what happened here is no wall is destructed, so here is no capillaries, so no gases can exchange here. So like that, the surface area of the alveoli gets decreased. So lungs tissue break down actually. You can see this part, that is emphysema is lung is suffering from emphysema. So you can see this part, here are some holes like structures. So that is the destruction of alveoli walls in the lungs. This is permanent actually. That is like cannot be cured. So lungs do not come back to original shape after exhalation. So what happened when we exhale, our lungs go back, but what happened? Air could not be pushed out because they are not coming back to their original position. If they will come in original position like contraction and relaxation, then they will uh, push the air back from this alveoli to this bronchioles and then to the trachea. So after that, air is trapped in the lungs. So the air which is present in the lungs, that is trapped in the lungs, that cannot be like leave. Like for example, carbon dioxide or oxygen is there. So oxygen cannot be like pushed into the capillaries, and then carbon dioxide cannot be released out properly. So difficulty in consuming more fresh air. So if air is going to be trapped here inside, it means more carbon dioxide air is there. So when we inhale, there will be difficulty in inhaling more carbon dioxide because already the gas is present in the lungs. So due to that, the person feels like less fresh air into their lungs, and there is the breathing difficulty for that patient. And when there is less oxygen, less fresh air, it means, so what happened, the patient and whole of the cells of the body, and especially the brain cells, then consume more amount of oxygen. So now the oxygen amount will be less, and that will be drastic or lethal for the patient. So what can happen after emphysema? You can see the structure of alveolus here. This is the normal, and when the walls are destructing, so you can see here. So like they are inflamed, and sometimes it happens if they are inflamed. By the inflammation, more pus is released in that, and they are filled up with pus. So definitely there will be uh, difficult for the patient to breathe in the air. You can see here, this is healthy lung, and this is affected lung, and this affected lung is due to this condition of alveoli. So there are some symptoms by which the doctors and the patient itself can diagnose the disease. Like if there is shortness of breath, especially during light exercise or climbing up the stairs. Sometimes it is due to lots of uh, lots of processes which are going on in the body. Like if we are having more weight, and like we are having sometimes cholesterol level is increased, sometimes if there is BP problem, blood pressure problem, so shortness of breath is there. But especially during very light exercise, and we climb up the steps or stairs. So ongoing feeling of not being able to get enough air. So because air is already trapped in the lungs, in these alveoli, so what happens, the patient is feeling like more oxygen, or like more oxygen is not gonna go into the lungs, and the person does not feel fresh. So long-term cough or smoker's cough, so that is also called smoker's cough. Like if it persists for 3 to 4 months, so that is called long-term cough. So that is the problem for the patients, and definitely he has to visit to the doctor. Emphysema is actually the chronic disease, and it takes too much time to develop. And there is wheezing sound also in the in breathing in and breathing out the air. Long-term mucus production due to this condition. Due to inflammation of the alveoli, pus or mucus will be released more. Ongoing fatigue, most of the time the person feels lethargic, there is fatigue, there is pain in the muscles and bodies, and uh, he's reluctant to do any type of uh, heavy job or heavy work. So by the time the symptoms appear, the patient has usually lost 50 to 70% lung tissues. So once the lung tissues get damaged, they will not be recovered again. So at this condition, when the 50 to 70% lung tissues are restricted, so the lifestyle can be we can make the lifestyle of the person can like better, just few degree, but it cannot be recovered properly. And then due to loss of oxygen or loss of fresh air in the body, so what will happen, there will be serious complications in the body, damaging of the cells, especially the heart and the brain as well. So let's talk about the treatment of emphysema. Like we are just talking, that's chronic disease. So what will be happen? So some bronchodilators are given to the patients. Bronchodilators, like sometimes bronchioles can also be affected, or in the form of shortness of breath, bronchodilators are given. Dilator means to open that path, that blocked path which is blocked by the pus. And in that condition, inhalers are given. And these drugs can help relieve coughing, shortness of breath, and breathing problems by relaxing constricted airways, which are constricted or which are getting narrowed by the presence of more pus and more mucus in the alveoli as well as into bronchioles and bronchi. We can give the doctor suggests inhaled steroids, like these steroids in the form of inhalers as well, and sometimes we give such type of medicines as well. So there are corticosteroids drugs inhaled as aerosol sprays most of the time to reduce inflammation and may help relieve shortness of breath. So most probably the most prominent symptom is shortness of breath that can lead to the death within no time. So that have to be cured and maintained before any type to maintain any type of symptoms. So for that the patients are given these type of medicines, and as well as if there is inflammation, so we can give the patients antibiotics and to reduce inflammation, and to if there is any type of bacteria or germs are there, so they can just cure that problem. So now, dear students, we will see the next very common issue of today as well, and that is more persistent in infants and younger kids. But nowadays, due to COVID-19 problem, that pandemic problem, most of the persons are suffering who are suffering from COVID-19, they are suffering from pneumonia as well. So now we are going to talk about pneumonia in detail. So what is pneumonia? It is actually the infection that inflames air sacs in one or two lungs. Actually, what happens here, due to some reasons, which are the reasons we'll talk about in a few minutes, due to some reasons, these alveoli, these are called air sacs, and these bronchioles as well, they are inflamed, and due to that, in these air spaces, more pus is released, and by the inflammation, these are filled with pus. When they are filled with pus, so what happened? There is no space for, no space for what we can say, air just to exchange air to pass into the alveoli, because all alveoli are filled with pus. So that also happens in this pandemic, in this condition of pandemic virus. So when it just moves into our lungs, so that can just stick anywhere, actually, in the larynx, in the bronchi, bronchioles, or into the lungs, into the alveoli. So inflammation is there. Inflammation is actually the immunity response. Immunity response means our white blood cells gathers more and they run towards to just to to compensate and to cure that problem and to kill those germs and those viruses or bacteria which come into the body. So in the fighting of that in fighting of that war between those pathogens and the white blood cells, so they become inflamed, the places will become inflamed, and then the more pus is released in the result of that. So some people can have double pneumonia, some can have walking pneumonia. What do you mean by these two terms? Double pneumonia means because we are having two lungs. So if one lung is affected, that is a simple common pneumonia. But if both of the lungs are affected, so that is called double pneumonia. So walking pneumonia means it is very mild enough that it can be cured by itself without visiting the hospital. And in that we can walk around, we can do our jobs, we can do our household as well. And if you see this X-ray image, so you can see this is a normal lungs, and here in this side we can see the affected lung tissues, which here that lung is filled with pus, and like that is the lung of pneumonia patient. Now we'll talk about some causes of pneumonia. If we talk about that, first of all, very common, that is bacteria. That is due to, there are some different types of bacteria which can affect the lungs. So that is Streptococcus pneumoniae, Mycoplasma pneumoniae, and Haemophilus influenza, and Legionella pneumophila. Sometimes viruses are also the cause of pneumonia. That is influenza, a normal influenza virus, respiratory syncytial virus, and rhinoviruses, and viral pneumonia as well. Sometimes pneumonia can be caused by other pathogen. Pathogen is very like any type of microorganisms which can destroy or which can have the adverse effect on our body. So in that, fungi is also included. So fungi from soil and bird droppings especially, like the in excreta of birds, can cause pneumonia. So sometimes it happens we pass through that area and we can inhale that with the air, or sometimes we touch that surfaces, so that can go through our mouth. Okay, so the most common cause of pneumonia in the people with weakened immune system, that is very important cause. If, like we have talked about double pneumonia, and we have talked about walking pneumonia. So walking pneumonia can be cured if the person is having strong immune system. But if the weakened immune system, so most of the viruses and these type of pathogens can attack on that person. So different type of fungi can be the cause of that pneumocystis jirovecii, and Cryptococcus species, and Histoplasmosis species. These are some species of fungi. If you see in this, in that we'll see that the symptoms can be mild to life threatening if we don't consider those symptoms. So there can be uh, coughing, okay, persistent cough. That can be in lots of respiratory disorders. The common symptom is shortness of breath as well as persistent cough. So if with the cough there is chest pain and persistent headache as well for 2 to 3 weeks, and with that more phlegm is produced. So these are some of the symptoms. Shortness of breath while normal activities, also chest pain, feeling of tiredness and fatigue, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting and headaches are some common pneumonia, sorry, common symptoms of pneumonia. So what is the treatment? Actually, if it is in the, it is viral infection, so viral antiviral medicines are given, and in 1 or 3 weeks without a treatment it can be improved. But if it persists longer than that, so we have to give antiviral medications. So if that is caused by bacteria, so we definitely give antibiotics. And if that is caused by fungal infection, that is treated by antifungal medication. So how can we just identify that which type of problem is that? So definitely there are x-rays, there are laboratory test of phlegm, blood as well. Lots of tests are there by which we can identify which type of pneumonia is this. Some pneumonia can be cured by the vaccines. Like vaccines, we know that are given before the problem, before the disease. So vaccines are available to prevent pneumonia caused by streptococcus and pneumoniae, but not for the others. So uh, that can be cured. So prior to discovery of antibiotics, we can also have discussed here antibiotics, because most of the pneumonia are bacterial. So before prior to, before the invention of these antibiotics, lots of people died due to pneumonia in different parts of the world. We will see very common and very important respiratory disorders, that is asthma. Asthma is a form of allergy, if we know, because normally we just seems to be normal person, but sometimes when we just face some type of irritant, some type of allergens, some type of pollution, smoke and like that, so we get difficulty of breathing. That situation is called asthma. There is inflammation of bronchi here, and then we are having more mucus production narrowing the airways, by which these are the normal airways, and after that inflammation is done, because due to these what we can say, these allergens. So what are allergens? We'll talk about these allergens that gets inflamed. Actually our body's defense system, immune system, like white blood cells, they feel those allergens as foreign particles, which can affect the person's body. So in the fighting of them, there is inflammation process, and due to inflammation more pus is released, and due to that what happens, the air passageway becomes narrow, and due to narrow passageway less air will be exchanged, and then the person can feel difficulty in breathing. So sensitive airways show immediate and excessive response of constriction, and due to this the patient feel difficulty in breathing, and if they do not get any type of medication, the person can die. Here are some causes of asthma. They are allergens actually. Dust particles like pollution, smoke, perfumes. Some are having allergy from perfumes, some are having allergy from cigarette smokes, especially dust particles. There is dust, we cannot move over there. Pollens are there, like in a spring season, plants produce pollens. You can see here dotted like structures which we cannot see, and they pass on into our respiratory tract through uh, through our nose and mouth, so we can have allergic conditions. And then sometimes we are having this problem in cold weather, in exercise as well, and in certain lots of stress we can feel this type of problem. So more than 300 million people suffer from asthma around the world, but almost 250,000 people die each year due to this problem. So here you can see the smoke is injected inside through through respiration or breathing problems, and look like this. And some allergens are there which are gonna disturb or just stick with our this air passageway, and then look, you can see the inflammation process occur. And this also, like tobacco smoking is one of the major cause of asthma. What are the symptoms? We can see here the symptoms, and those symptoms are major symptoms are shortness of breath, wheezing sound, when we cough, or when not only cough, but when we breathe in and out, wheezing sound comes up, like whistling sound comes, coughing. And then chest tightness is very important and main symptom of this. Like it just look like somebody is with the rope, they are tightening their our chest, and we cannot even breathe anymore. So there are some other problems like coughing, respiratory distress, and difficulty in breathing, mucus production, and like that. We are having a treatment of asthma, very useful, very successful treatments. Actually, that is no permanent cure. The person has, if person has suffered from asthma once, so he or she can just take it for whole of their life. But we can improve the lifestyle of that person, and that is a thank you to inhale, thanks to inhalers which we use. So the doctors suggest inhalers, and they are also called bronchodilators, which dilate bronchi and bronchioles, which are used in the treatment of asthma. And such medications are given in the form of inhalers because they are more effective rather than other medicines. Other medicines are also given with that, but they are more useful in the form of inhalers. Like such type of medicines and chemicals are given to the patients when they inhale them like this with these inhalers. So what happened, you can see, inhale that mist or drops are going into that, and look, from here you can see sudden effect and sudden results come like this. A bronchospasm, that is called bronchospasm, like attack of asthma, that is temporarily cured, and this inflammation has gone away, and the air passageway becomes open. You can see here it is reached here and into that. Now it is going to be increase, open the air passageway, and then we can breathe easily, and we can take more fresh air. Due to that, the person can save his life. Most of the cases are that they didn't get inhaler, so they can die within no time. So inhalers are given in the form of dry powders as well. Like this is the mouthpiece. By that we can just take powder from oral cavity, and that is metered dose. Like these are inhaler with the sprays that is also taken by like this from oral cavity, which can, because here is a pharynx, which is the connection between oral and nasal cavity. So from here that they will move very easily and quickly into our lungs and wherever it is needed. Dear students, with this we have completed some of the respiratory disorders which are very common nowadays, and in whole of the world lots of deaths occur due to these problems. Although they are not cured permanently, but there are solutions which are found nowadays in the form of especially inhalers, but there are lots of medicines as well, by which they are somehow uh, like cured, we can say, not permanently but temporarily can be cured, and our lifestyles can be better by taking those type of precautions and medicines. Dear students, for today, this is enough, because we are having lots of concepts and about respiratory disorders. Nowadays, you can understand that what type of respiratory disorder we are suffering from. Due to that, a whole of the world is locked down. That is COVID-19. That is also causes respiratory disorders, as well as that is like common flu virus, because common flu virus is also having such type of structure. But that is like, because it's spreading uh, or like that mode of spread is too much different from others, and that's why it is very, very lethal. And we must take care of that, that we must not shake hands, not like embrace and hug to any other, as well as we just have to stay at home as much as possible. And with that, I wish you all the best, and take care of yourself and your family members in this situation, especially. Inshallah, we will continue our this disorders of respiratory system of human beings in the next lecture. Wish you all the best. Allah Hafiz.